So, Zombieland Double Tap. It's been about 10 years since Zombieland, and now we return to the zombie world once again. But it's odd because back around the time when Zombieland, kind of became the surprise hit, they tried to make a Zombieland TV show, and it didn't really pan out. Mostly because they had they didn't have the original cast, they had to recast it. But they filmed it in kind of like the same aesthetic, but just didn't take off. And I can't help but feel like if it had turned into a TV show, this film would have been like the capper. This would have been like the last season, pulling out, whatever kind of script you could get to kind of like finish off the show. It's still got some of that wit and zip that we had from the first film, but you can tell it's straining. You can tell it's really trying hard here for laughs, and not a lot of them are nailing that well. So it's interesting because the story picks up here with concepts you think that should have come about much earlier rather than over the course of a 10-year period. So we catch up with Columbus, who's played by Jesse Eisenberg. He lets us in on more like the zombie rules. He invites us back to the theater. He kind of breaks the fourth wall, saying, thanks for coming back and watching our film again. He informs us on, the rules again. He lets us know about a few new zombie designations. It's oh, okay, cool. He's getting us up to speed here. But he's looking to take his relationship with Wichita, played by Emma Stone, to the next level. He wants to try to get married, but she has cold feet, and she's not really sure she wants to be in that kind of relationship, even though they've been together for 10 years. But apparently, in classic sitcom fashion, they kind of had these situations that are set up with kind of like cartoon characters to try to get these sort of sitcom situations going. Like at one point, they stumble upon the dumb blonde Madison, played by Zoe Deitch, and it's not an embellishment calling her a dumb blonde. They really pull out every dumb blonde joke in the book that they can think of for this character, and she's treated as a rebound character, as someone who Columbus has fallen in love with, while his relationship with Wichita is on the rocks. And it really comes off like a sitcom bit here, because is there any doubt that Columbus is going to break up with Wichita and go off with this cartoon character of a dumb blonde? I'm surprised they didn't make a more obvious joke, because apparently they find her, she had locked herself in a freezer during the zombie apocalypse. So there's kind of this Encino Man vibe, where it kind of feels like they've resurrected a dead joke. I would almost say I would almost think they would have a joke saying, oh, we resurrected her from the 90s, or call her, related to Clueless or something like that. Just, cause something, it seems way too obvious that they have these dumb blonde jokes here. But again, this kind of sets the tone for the rest of the film, because pretty much every character they run into here is essentially a one joke and kind of tired joke cartoon character most of the time. We have another story here going on with Wichita's sister, Little Rock, played by Abigail Breslin, who she's getting older, and she doesn't want to hang out with these guys as much. She wants to try to find people her own age to hang out with, which is understandable. But she ends up hooking up with Berkeley, who's this hippie played by Ivan Jogia, and he's pretty much like a stereotypical hippie. That's why this really does feel like a sitcom. He's, he doesn't like guns, he's non-violent, he plays the guitar, he plays ripped off songs. In fact, they even double down on a lot of these stereotypes, because at one point, Little Rock asks this guy if he has weed. And it's do I really look like someone who would have weed? It's oh, okay, maybe a little subversion. No, and he holds up the bag of weed and says, look at me. Of course I have weed. Of course. Take everything here at face value. So, and I mean, for a lot of people, that would seem like an easy laugh, but to me, that was kind of a more depressing thing, because it really means there's not going to be a lot of surprises here. Pretty much every character is going to be what they say they are on surface level, that by the time we get to the second act, there's little surprise here. When we get to the whole... Tallahassee is fun. Tallahassee here, once again played by Woody Harrelson. He does a good job with the wit and the sass, but even he, is not really... It feels like he could be making more jokes about this type of stuff here, especially for how ridiculous the stuff is, rather than the obvious ones about how, he's attached to Little Rock, so, he's getting protective. He doesn't like that, she's hanging out with a hippie who doesn't use guns. Less so for safety and more for the fact that it's not cool in his eyes. But then we get to other cartoon characters, like we get to the characters of Albuquerque and Flagstaff, played by Luke Wilson and Thomas Middleditch, who are essentially just like mirror universe versions of Columbus and Tallahassee. And that's literally all it is. It's one joke. It's like both of them have rules. Both of them are cocky. They both trade stories. They both talk the same way. I'm pretty sure, they do the whole, mirror. They look at each other in the mirror and, wave their hands at each other type thing. That bit goes on. It goes on for just, a few scenes and then mercifully is killed off because there's not much you can do with it. I mean, you would think there'd be more fun that you could have with that concept, but no, it's only extracted like a lot of stuff is in this film, just for the simple laughs of it, and nothing more. Like, pretty much everything you've seen in the trailer for that scene, you've seen all the best parts of that. Which I know a lot of people say is for a lot of trailers, but it really is true here. The only character they encounter who's not a cartoon character is Nevada, played by Rosario Dawson. And it's only because they don't really develop her that much. She's developed as a love interest for Tallahassee, and they want to frame her so that they can take her along on the journey. So in order to do that, they make her just a lover of Elvis and of cool cars. And that's pretty much all there is to their character. I mean, she loves Elvis, she loves Tallahassee, and that's about it. I mean, I'm grateful she's not a gimmick character, but at the same time, she doesn't really add much of anything. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is cool to watch her wield a machine gun and drive over zombies with a monster truck. It's fun, but again, that's all superficial stuff, Especially since this film feels like it has a whole bunch of teases to it as well. Like I mentioned in the beginning, we see these different designations of zombies. We're informed about, the dumb type of zombies, the smart type of zombies, and the kind of the silent killer zombies. But the thing is, we don't see a lot of them. We see the dumb zombies a lot, but we don't really see a lot of the smart ones, and we don't even see the silent killer ones at all. In fact, when we're introduced to the silent killer zombies, and the kind, the ones that hide behind walls and they lie in wait and they don't make a noise and then they attack you out of nowhere. That would be interesting to see because I got excited because that means there'll probably be a surprise coming. There'll be a moment where we're not expecting a zombie to come out and it'll freak us out and it'll just throw a wrench into the works. That'll be cool. Never happens. We never see this designation of the ninja zombie ever again after the mention there. And it becomes more apparent that we're not going to see it because, when we're introduced to the ninja zombie, it feels like it's from a much different horror film. Not the comedic type of horror film that we're going for with Zombieland. So then it raises the question, well, why introduce it then? We introduce the dumb zombies, they come into play, but why do we introduce the ninja zombies? I also feel like there's a big tease with how there's this hippie commune that's based around a skyscraper. And I thought, okay, that... they kind of set this up as okay, this might be cool. What happens when the zombies will get in here and they're storming the skyscraper? Will they have to maybe tip the skyscraper over on them or demolish it? Only because it seems like there's a little bit of foreshadowing with that, with one of the zombie kills of the week. But no payoff there. No payoff. The zombies do get in, but any payoff you think that this film will have with that, it doesn't really come around to it. And so we're mostly just kind of left with kind of standard, the standard jokes here, which kind of feels depressing here because Zombieland felt like it was, when it came out in 2009, it felt fresh. It felt like it had some interesting ideas to it and some creative kills for it. I wasn't as in love with the film as a lot of people were, but it did have some clever moments. It did have some fun, and I did like the characters here. I still feel like the characters have some wit and charm to them, but they have so little to play off of in this film. Even though Rosario Dawson, I feel they use somewhat well, they have nothing to play off of here. So that by the time when they have to kind of split and try to, find themselves and interact with these other characters, it doesn't really carry that same charm. It feels like it's just a desperation for jokes here. Which is really kind of sad. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, the zombie action is still fun, it's still gory, it's still violent. We still have, the zombie rules delivered in that, wickedly insightful, typography that comes in here and there. It's fun, and I gotta mention, they do have another little funny cameo in the post-credit scene, but again, it feels more like a reiterance and a carrying of, like, the cameo from the previous Zombieland film, where it doesn't really feel like it's bringing anything new here. So, I mean, that's my biggest problem with Zombieland. I smirked at it. I loved hanging around these characters, but here they're handed not much where they're expected to put in, overtime into making this type of film work, at least with character and charm. The zombie action and violence is still there, but I don't know. There's something about it that feels a little bit lacking. There's some funny scenes, a little bit of sleight of hand, but it feels like there could just be more to this. It feels like it's just kind of just harping on some of the same jokes, which, again, some of them carry and a lot of them don't here. So, I mean, I was very much on the fence with this film. I think Woody Harrelson and Jesse Eisenberg still have that character charm that they have from the first film, to the point where I think that they don't really need anyone else in this film. Like, the same thing with, like, Abigail Breslin and Emma Stone. They still have their moments of charm in the story, where I wish it was just them in this type of story, and that they didn't really have to form, like, that much of a connection to the cartoon characters, because they clearly show that their characters are developed. They have a lot to them. They have history. They have great conversations together. But yeah, it needs more of that and less of just, sitcomish bits. So hopefully Double Tap is like hopefully Double Tap confirms that this series is dead. I don't want there to be a triple tap just to make sure it's dead. So for Zombieland, Double Tap. 3 out of 5 stars.